to deliver this message. I was told to deliver this message.
Looks like we were on mute that whole time. All praises due to Allah. Well, let me go ahead and hit you with the greetings and salutations again. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, who appeared in the person of Master Fard Muhammad, to whom praises are due forever plus 1,000 days. I further bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger, but to be right and exact and down to the modern times, let me point out that I'm speaking of none other than the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, who is at minimum, the messenger of Allah, but in fact, the exalted Christ. And lastly, I bear witness that the man who taught me about both of those men, I wouldn't know a thing about Master Fard Muhammad or the most honorable Elijah Muhammad if it was not for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And those three great names, I greet you in the words of peace. We said in the Arabic language, that's the language that we spoke long before we knew anything about this grafted, bastardized language called English. And it's the language that we spoke long before we knew anything about the grafted bastard that taught us that language. And I think you know who I'm talking about. And those three great names, I greet you in the words of peace. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, sir.
And now that we're not sitting here lip syncing and actually speaking, and you can hear us, all praises due to Allah. Welcome to part 9 of Revolutionary Relationships, the Courtship Process. As you know, we are going through the actual courtship manual, and we're getting into one of the hot parts of the manual, because we're going to deal with the part that gives us some ideas or some type of understanding of some of the things, some of the questions that should be asked, and some of the things that should be considered when dealing with courtship. Now, I want you to keep in mind a couple of things about this show, Revolutionary Relationships, as it deals with courtship, the courtship process. Later on, we're going to get into more categories that deal with revolutionary relationships. First of all, the name itself, Revolutionary Relationships. We named it that because, to be honest and frank, and to speak straight words, there is nothing more revolutionary than a black man or Aboriginal man loving a black or Aboriginal woman. Nothing. Nothing. It ain't a hat you can wear. It ain't a kufi you can wear. It ain't a bow tie you can wear. It ain't a Black Lives Matter t-shirt you can wear. It ain't nothing you can do as a black man or Aboriginal man that's more revolutionary than starting a family and starting a world and starting a nation with an Aboriginal woman, and vice versa. There's nothing you can do, sister, that's more revolutionary than loving a black man or an Aboriginal man. You can grow the biggest afro that your big head can hold. You can wear, like I said, you can wear you can wear all the Bantu knots and all that. You can do all of that. You can do all of that. You can wear all the dashiki dresses. You can do all that kind of stuff. But listen, if you walking around with Brad, and brother, if you walking around with Becky, you playing the fool. Do you understand?
That's
So
right.
that's what we mean by revolutionary relationships. But what we don't mean is that myself, your brother Landon X, and his sister Shauna Joy X are some kind of standard for anybody to follow. If you follow us, man, you're going to walk right off a cliff. This ain't about following us. Like I said, we're going over the absolute comprehensive courtship manual from the Nation of Islam, and we're following the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the guidance of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. But I also want to point out that this is not just for registered believers in the Nation of Islam. In the Nation of Islam, we're supposed to be the vanguard and the standard bearers of our people, of our Aboriginal people, the entire Nation of Islam, registered and unregistered. Even if you never stepped foot in a Muhammad mosque before, first of all, if you never stepped foot in the Muhammad mosque, what the hell is wrong with you? But second of all, if you're a little slow and you haven't done that yet, I don't want you to click off of this or go do something else and think this ain't your business. You nosy anyway. Go ahead and watch. And plus, this is for you. This is for all the Aboriginal family. Shout out to the FBI and the CIA and all the other white boys watching. I know y'all watching too. So if the Alphabet boys are watching, you should be watching too. All we're trying to do is lay down the groundwork of recapturing three things. One of the major three things that were taken from us in slavery. And those three things were the science of business, the science of warfare, and the science of mating. And when it comes to human beings, mating goes beyond sex, far beyond sex. If you're talking about mating dogs, we just talking about sex. Dogs don't give each other any type of emotional support. They don't work like that with them. If you're talking about pigs, cows, ducks, whatever, bats, or whatever the case may be, then you're just talking about sex. But when you talk about mating with human beings, you're talking about the whole system, from courtship to marriage to building a family, the whole nine. So that's what we're dealing with. And at this time, I'm going to let this beautiful sister to my right, I'm not too sure who she is or what her name is, but she's going to let you know that. Nah, this is my wife, Sister Shauna Joy.
I'd like to open up by greeting you all with the good words of peace of Assalamu Alaikum. And I would definitely be remiss if I don't bear witness that there is no God but Allah, who came in the person of Master Muhammad, to whom all praises are due forever. I further bear witness that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad is the exalted Christ and first begotten of the dead, and that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is our divine warner, teacher, son of man, and Jesus in our midst today. It is in those righteous and holy names that I greet you all with the greeting words of peace of Assalamu Alaikum.
Wa
Missed you
alaikum
all.
salam.
We appreciate you all for tuning in, your time. And just as a reminder, this is, as my husband has coined the term, a cyber cipher. You all really fuel the show with your questions and your comments. We have some We have some steady viewers, loyal viewers that always chime in. So we're looking forward to you all.
right.
We're looking forward to new viewers. Again, this is not just for the believers. This is for everyone, registered and non-registered believers or members of the Nation of Islam. So we look forward to your engagement, and we're going to have, inshallah, by the will, mercy, and power and grace of Allah, we're going to have a beautiful show for you all tonight. And thank you again.
All praises due to Allah. If you have a copy of the Comprehensive Courtship Manual, I'm going to ask you to turn to page 36. This is going to be like I said, cyber cipher. This is a classroom too. If you don't have a copy, now we're not going to be able to necessarily send it to you right now. We may or may not, but hit us up directly, inbox us through NationTownTV with your email address. Or, you know, if you don't trust this with your email address, make up a quick one. They free anyway. Send that to us, and as soon as we get the chance, we'll send it to you. It does not matter if you're in the Nation of Islam, registered or not. We doing it for the entire Aboriginal family, because like I said, we supposed to be the standard bearers. We supposed to be the clean glass. So we don't have no secrets. We ain't the Illuminati. We ain't no secret society. There's some stuff we can't talk to you about, but this is something that's important. And so, you know, send us your email address. We'll shoot it to you. No strings attached.
For the free.
There is a $1,500 fee to that, but we're going to waive that. We're going to waive that. But if you feel it in your heart to hit us with that $1,500, then go ahead and do that. But no, we're going to hit it to you. It's 100% free if you had that. But we're going to start on page 36. And this is a heavy aspect of it because it's dealing with compatibility factors to explore with your courtmate. And then after we go through these factors, we're going to deal with some of the questions that you should be asking. Just some examples of questions. Not you got to ask these exact questions, but keep in mind, court in the word courtmate is not there on accident. And we like to go over the actual definition of courtship as defined in the Courtship Manual. We'll cover that real quick. Courtship defined. Courtship is the intentional process in which two people formally decide to engage in discovery to find out whether they share enough compatibility characteristics in crucial areas to get engaged and married. Now, as you read that, I want you to pay attention to what you see and what you do not see. Courtship, if you're doing it right, if you're doing it and with the means of what they say, high civility, then it's not about, you know, taste testing the goods, treating the black man or the black woman like they're a free candy store. Hell, candy stores ain't even free. I never heard of one. If you know of one, please inbox that to us so I can go and clean them out. But I don't think there are any free candy stores. So courtship is really mental, and it's absolutely a process similar to a court trial, because you're trying to get exhibits and information and evidence as much as possible to see if this person is compatible or equally yoked. And we're going to talk a little bit about that term, equally yoked. Now, I want to give you guys the opportunity to see what we're looking at when it comes to the actual courtship manual, and we're going to cover those compatibility factors to explore with your courtmate. Now, we're not going to go through each one by one, but I'm going to pick out a couple that stand out to me, and Sister Shauna Joy, I believe, will probably comment on some as well, but we're going to go over them real quick just by name. First of all, you have character. And I don't think that's number one by accident. Then we have family background, intellect, similar energy levels, spirituality, education, appearances, sense of humor, mood management, ambition, artistic passion, values, industry, curiosity, vitality and security, autonomy versus closeness, obstreperousness. Ooh, I hit that one on the money. Obstreperousness, communication, conflict resolution, social ability, adaptability, kindness, dominance versus submission. Dominance versus submission. I'm going to say it again. Dominance versus submission. Health, traditional versus non-traditional personalities. Lord have mercy. Those are some heavy hitters. Don't you think, Sister Shauna?
Yes, sir.
Now, I gotta point something out. I know one of them words kind of hit y'all in the mouth. Y'all was like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
Obstreperousness. I know that some of y'all super smart people, but see, I went to public school, you know, unlike her, she went to private school. I went to public school. In fact, the school I went to was a hood school that was being threatened every year to get shut down by the government. So we didn't necessarily have the best education. So we're gonna cover what obstreperous means. Obstreperous means marked by unruly or aggressive noisiness, stubbornly resistant to control. This is basically someone who cannot be controlled, you know, acting a damn fool. Can't nobody tell them nothing. Obstreperousness. I wonder how many people who are watching this or going to watch this have ever been in any type of relationship with someone that's obstreperous. I know I have. All praise is due to Allah. Now, there are a couple of these, and I'm going to bring these up one more time for those that didn't catch it. A couple of these that I want to point out that I think, you know, they're all extremely important, but just the ones that I feel like are really some things that we got to figure out. They all heavy now. They all important. But family background. There's a level of importance to family background, but what we can't do with family background is be too generic on what that means. Don't just assume that if the sister that you courting, brother, if she from the so-called ghetto, first of all, that word really shouldn't even be in the vernacular of an intelligent Aboriginal person, not in the sense that it's often used, but if she's from poverty or she came from a broken home, don't assume nothing about her just based on that. She probably smarter than you. She probably then withstood more challenges than you, and she's probably wiser than you. Don't jump to that conclusion. Also, don't jump to the conclusion that even though her family may appear to be Cosby-ish, you know, the thing about the Cosby Show, shout out to Bill Cosby. I hate what he's going through right now. But I wasn't really one of those black people that was a big fan of the show. Not because it wasn't funny, not because it wasn't a great image for black people. It was just kind of unrealistic for me. You know, I grew up in poverty. I grew up, you know, with a shaky, you know, non-nuclear family household situation. And one was a doctor, one was a lawyer, two of the most time-consuming jobs that you could have. And they had, what, 9 children. And neither one of them smoked weed. None of them dropped out of school. One of them dropped out of college. And that was just something they wrote in because she got pregnant in real life. But, you know, didn't nobody get no fights. Didn't nobody, you know, didn't nobody get hooked on crack. Didn't nobody, I mean, it's like, and come on. If you knew, I knew people growing up who grew up in the suburbs and both parents made good money. And they had a lot of money in their pocket and a lot of time on their hands because their parents wasn't around to really, you know, go behind them. And so they were some of the wildest dudes and wildest people I knew growing up. So, you know, don't assume that with family background that, you know, there's some kind of sitcom situation. Sift past the sitcom part and go to the depth of it. You know, things like, were they an only child? You know, were they the youngest or the oldest? You know, were they the only daughter or the only son? Were they actually spoiled? If you find out they were the only daughter or the only son, don't assume that they were spoiled. Did they go through a divorce? Because keep in mind, this is something that we don't realize when it comes to divorce, that children go through that. They go through that just as much, if not more so, and in a different fashion than the mother and the father. So we got to consider that, because if they have that issue, then that's probably going to be something lingering around in their mind, this insecurity or engram about divorce. You know, so you got to know that kind of thing. And did they grow up with what you would call an absentee parent? You know, they grew up without their father, without their mother. Some people grew up without both, raised by their grandmother, their grandparents, or even foster parents. You need to know these kind of things just so you know what you're dealing with and what the possible pitfalls, or to know what things are possibly, sensitive, that they're sensitive about. If it is a divorce, where they came from a divorce, understand that. If they were the only child, you probably dealing with a spoiled brat. Probably, not necessarily, but keep that in mind. So these are the things that you need to know. Anything you want to touch on with that, sister?
Well, I just had to relay a message. Just let you know, beloved, our beloved student minister, Abdul Malik, oh goodness, brother student minister Abdul Malik Saeed Muhammad.
Get his name right.
I know, right?
Hold on. I got plenty of practice with it.
Go ahead.
Our beloved Western and Regional Student Minister Abdul Malik Saeed Muhammad. See, if you don't say it like that, it don't count. It don't count.
Our beloved Western Regional Student Minister is tuning in from Chicago. He says, "Wa alaikum salam. I'm watching from Chicago. I love what y'all do. You are good examples for other couples and a great help to me and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I'm blown away. All praise belongs to Allah, and we're just striving to live up to your example that you've been leading of the beautiful example that's in our midst, our divine example in our midst, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Thank you so much, Brother Minister. Stay warm."
That's right.
Stay
That's
warm.
right. Before we move on, special shout out to our beloved Western Regional Student Minister and his lovely wife, Sister Malika. I almost said Sister Tanya. I almost forgot. Sister Malika, listen, they've been together probably longer than I've been born together, but they've been married about the same amount of time I've been alive, and they've been through everything that you could go through, the good and the bad, and I thank Allah. I ain't passing judgment on nobody else's mosque, nobody else's region, but I thank Allah that as a newly married brother, I'm coming up under a brother who's so battle-tested in every way, shape, or form. I thank Allah for this beautiful couple and their family, and them just weathering all the storms they've weathered, all the successes, all the triumphs, and because that just makes it easier for a young couple such as ourselves. And I strongly advise anybody to make sure that you're listening to this brother every Sunday. If you're in the LA area, come out. Come in. It ain't nothing like seeing this brother live.
That's right.
It ain't no replacement for that. But if you happen to be in another state, we'll let you roll with that cop out, and make sure you tune in to NationTown TV to hear this brother teach. But you see where we getting our guidance from.
Yes.
This ain't osmosis. This is because we're actually led on the West Coast by a brother who takes this whole marriage thing extremely seriously, and he has the experience to back it up.
That's right.
All praises due to Allah.
We also have our beautiful sister Tanya Muhammad tuning in. You may know her from Daycare Chronicles 101. If you don't, you need to go and follow her page on Instagram and on Facebook. Daycare Chronicles 101.
Let me tell you, I don't mean to interrupt. That's one of the best video series on social media. My sister keeps it 1,000.
Yes.
And man,
she is a professional.
Hey man, get your babies right before you send them to her. Get them right. Trust me, get them right.
Or she will get them right and get you right as well.
Get them right. I love that, man.
Please check out our sister Daycare Chronicles 101 if you are looking for a daycare provider that is going to feed your children healthy food, that is going to give your children a well-rounded knowledge base and not just sit them in front of a TV or an iPad. Go and look up our sister, Daycare Chronicles 101, and her lovely husband. We would love to have you all on the show.
Shout out Big Marcus.
Inshallah, we will get to see and hear her live.
I don't think Brother Marcus is gonna like you calling him lovely. He might.
That was a slip of the tongue. Thank you, thank you, beloved. Let's clean that up. Her wonderful husband, her soldiering husband,
strong
husband.
Oh, praise to
Shout out to Sister Valerie, my lovely Sister Valerie. Welcome back, Brother Sherman.
That's right.
That's right. Mosque number 27 photographer.
Filmmaker.
Yes,
DJ,
filmmaker, DJ, all that. He holds us down.
All praise due to Allah.
But back to the subject, you know, I concur, I agree with everything that my husband was saying. And when it comes to those traits that, let me actually get them pulled back up on my phone. When it comes to those compatibility traits and factors, you know, these are the things we don't want to ask closed-ended questions when we are delving into these factors. You know, when we're talking to our potential, our court mates, when we're talking to our court mates and you ask those questions, let's say, you know, family background, you know, you don't want to ask something like, so, you know, how many brothers and sisters do you have? You want to go deeper. You want to ask questions about, you know, how they are brought up to deal with certain situations. What, you know, what did this look like in your household? How did you all, you know, enjoy yourself? How did you all enjoy your time together as a family? What are you looking to experience with a family when it's just yourself and myself, no children? What are you looking to experience? What are we trying to do? What are your goals for a family when you have children? How do you plan on bringing things of that nature? So you want to be very, very, you know, ask very open-ended questions. My husband and myself, we did a lot of scenarios. We did a lot of situational questions. So if you were in this situation, what would happen? If the teacher called and said your baby hand was hanging off by, you know, a thread of skin, you know, what are you going to do? You know, I'm just extra, you know, things of that nature.
A little graphic, a little violent.
It's a little graphic. But no, seriously, you want to, you know, you want to ask very open-ended questions, and you don't want to, you know, think that if for any reason the answers to these questions aren't 100% in accordance with what you are used to or what you're looking forward to, that you all will not be a good choice for each other. You know, equally yoked means balance. It doesn't mean that, oh, you're going to think and do everything that I think and do. You know, you're going to say everything that I say. It's a balance that we're looking for. You know, you're looking for someone that is going to be able to compliment you. But that compliment and that balance has to be within the realm in which you're willing to, I don't want to say settle for, but within the realm in which you are willing to work with. It has to be something and someone that you can actually work with.
All praises due to Allah. Now, another category that was up there when it comes to compatibility factors to explore that's big to me is our values. You know, what are they willing to sacrifice for? You know, what is really at the top of their, you know, of their value structure? What is it that they can't do without? You know, what are their deal breakers? What are the things that they can't live without? Brothers, you gotta know. You gotta know if she gotta spend $500 a weekend shopping. If she gotta do that, brother, that might not be. Don't try to change her. You know, good luck with that. Good luck. She might negotiate with. She might go down to $400 a weekend. But if that's who she is, you need to know that. You know, you need to know that. And I would suggest the sister. We're gonna get into questions, the types of questions you should ask. But you know, I would suggest the brother and the sister get creative, because sometimes they're not just gonna tell you their flaws. We not built like that. You know, especially if there's that initial. I was listening to the minister today, and he was talking about the power of physical attraction, and that can be that could be a hindrance sometimes. It could be intoxicating is the word that he used. So they might say, oh, he's so cute, you know, or she's so fine. So she might ask you something like, you know, what do you think about XYZ? And you're going to try to give her the most PC answer that you can give them, you know, just to get past that hurdle. So you got to get creative sometimes. You know, give them some scenarios, you know, ask them a question behind the question to kind of catch, you know. I don't want to suggest lying, but just say, hey, brother, if I decide to spend $800 on a weekend at the mall, you know, which is something I've done before, be honest, something I've done before, you know, is that cool with you? And see if he twitch. If he twitch, you know, he might say, oh, no, that's cool, you know, but if he, you know, if he jump a little bit, you know, he might be telling you something. He might be definitely telling you something. But I'm going to bring that up one more time These are compatibility factors to explore with your mate. All praises due to Allah. And once again, shout out to our beloved Western Region Student Minister, Abdul Malik. He suggested a marriage retreat on the West Coast. Man, I am all for it. We need it in every region. Our beloved student minister is also, he heads one of the most successful marriage retreat programs in the Nation of Islam. He did a fantastic program during Savior's Day with our brother minister out of New York, Brother Hafiz, and man, that was one of my highlights of the Savior's Day weekend, you know, because those are two brothers who know what they're talking about when they're talking about marriage. So definitely, brother minister, I'm all for it. We need that. Yes. We all need that, you know, in every region. You know, we might, hell, you got connections in London. The believers in believers in Europe need that too. I know they do. So all praises due to Allah. And also you had, let's deal with that obstreperousness, difficult to control. And I gotta touch on that, Shauna, because no, but let me.
In some instances, I'm not perfect.
Well, we all, I think we all find ourselves being guilty of obstreperousness. Yes. I'm gonna bring that definition up again. Because, and here's why this probably means more to the black household today than it did 30, 40 years ago. I'm not saying mama and daddy didn't cuss each other out back in the 60s and the 70s, but we got an element today that mama and daddy and grandma and them didn't have to deal with, you know, back in the day. And that is the advent of what we call reality shows. And on these reality shows, they highlight and they celebrate foolishness. They celebrate arguments and drama. And they make it fair seeming. In fact, they make it cute. To the point where we have an entire generation of young Aboriginal people who think that screaming and hollering at each other and snapping their neck and all of this, that's a relationship. In fact, if you ain't doing that, then it's boring. There's something wrong. There's something wrong with her or something wrong with him if it ain't all that snapping and yipping and yapping and trying to hurt each other's feelings and trying to, you know, say stuff. You know, I call them, you know, emotional grenades, just throwing grenades, you know, just for something to blow up because you can't formulate a better argument in your mind. You know, sisters are good at that. Brothers, we make the terrible mistake, as our beloved Western Regional Student Minister teaches on, the terrible mistake that when we run out of wisdom, we want to put our hands on the sister, you know, but usually before the hands comes the mouth, and that's what this obstreperousness, I'm gonna struggle with that for the rest of the night, but that's what that's talking about. Somebody who's just hard to control. And you know, the minister did say to our sisters particularly that a man cannot protect what he cannot control, but we got to be clear on what control means. And I'm gonna touch on that a little bit later when we talk about submissiveness. And everybody shouldn't be controlling nobody. Some people don't deserve, some brothers don't deserve the right to control nothing. Some brothers shouldn't even get behind the wheel of a car, you know, much less be able to control or lead a woman. But that's a couple of things that I want to touch on. Anything else you want to touch on?
And yes, I agree. But you know, when we hear that word, I'm not going to try and pronounce it. My husband has already done so beautifully. Don't get me started. When we hear that word and we think about control, we automatically go to the woman, you know. But there are instances, many, you know, the man, our spouses or our mates, you know, they have to be able to relinquish a certain amount of control as well. You know, when we are and this is not the Arab culture, you know, in Islam, and in your marriages, there shouldn't be any type of culture where the man or even the female, we know of instances where men are being abused and raped and things of that nature. There should be no instance where if you're in a loving relationship or marriage that there isn't enough trust and enough faith in one or the other that you can relinquish a certain amount of control, in situations and guiding the marriage to where it's supposed to be. Because none of us are perfect, we're all striving to come perfectly one with the God. So one or the other may fall off the dean, and if the husband falls off the dean, they need to be able to relinquish the control to, if need be, to the wife, to be able to get back on the right track. So that's not just an instance where it's just the woman. And we know, yes, of course, we have our mouths, but us as sisters, we have to come into the knowledge. And it's a very, I don't want to say old-fashioned, but it's almost hidden knowledge of how to actually treat and respect and love and admire and appreciate a man, so that they feel comfortable enough and they have enough trust in us that they can relinquish. I understand why men have built up walls and barriers over time, and that they have to have this amount of control or dominance, because look what we have been made into. So we have to come into a very divine knowledge on how we can build that trust, and how we can properly talk, and how we can properly guide. Because yes, the husband is the head of the household and he is the leader, but sisters, we are the neck. We can guide, but we have to do it in the proper fashion and in the proper manner. And when it comes to our husbands, it's all about, appreciation, admiration, and showing them that they can trust us with that certain amount of control that is needed to lead us to the proper path. And a part of that comes with knowledge. We've been taught by our student minister that when you get married, what is your plan? What's your 3-year plan? What's your 5-year plan? What's your 10-year plan? You all should know where you're trying to go, so that if one or the other gets off the track, the other can pick up that slack and guide you down that path of what your plan of your marriage is and your goal is to be accomplished.
Oh, praise is due to Allah. Now, she said this brother's out there getting raped by their spouse. Oh, wow. That's, man, it's hard out here for the brothers. Oh, praise is due to Allah. Now, another one that stood out to me as far as compatibility factors to explore with your courtmate, communication. Communication. Do you really, really enjoy talking with, not just talking to, but talking with, your courtmate? This is somebody that do you enjoy the sound of their voice? Do you enjoy, no, not necessarily agree, but do you enjoy their opinions? Do you think they're too long-winded? Do you think, they think they're so smart? Or you think they're kind of slow? Or you think, they got a speech impediment? Or you think whatever it is, you gotta, because here's the reason. Islam is mathematics. Mathematics is Islam. It stands true. It can be proven in no limited time. 23 hours, 56 minutes, 46 seconds in the day. Now, brothers, I know some of us feel like we world heavyweight champions in the bedroom. But hey, some of the best chaps had short fights. Mike Tyson was knocking them out in like 25 seconds. So you might be a champ, but as far as time is concerned, maybe not. So let's say you let's say you knocking it out. Let's say you let's say you putting in a strong hour. All praises due to Allah. And then another thing that we do in relationships that's fun is we go out. We go out. We might go on a vacation. We might go to a fancy restaurant. That's all good. Sex, going out on dates. These are things that should definitely be happening in a relationship. But it's 23 hours, 56 minutes, 46 seconds in a day. You can't have sex and go on vacations and go to restaurants and go to the movies 24/7. In fact, that's not even a daily thing, to be honest. And even if you're doing it every day, it's going to get old after a while. In fact, you go your first month of marriage, going out, vacation, rolling around in bed for a whole month straight, by that second month, you're gonna be like, damn, what's next? So you gotta be able to listen and talk to your significant other. So the courtship is a perfect opportunity to find out, is this somebody that you can deal with for that other 23 hours, 56 minutes, and 42 seconds after y'all rolling around in the bedroom. Make sure that this is somebody where you just enjoy being around them. Because that's where you look at grandma, grandpa, you know, you really don't see it that much no more, but they've been together for 67 years. And, you know, don't think that they just been tiptoeing through the tulips and holding hands and singing songs for 60 years. They done fought, they done argued, they done let each other down, they done a whole lot. But I think the real binding thing is that they, at the end of the day, they enjoy each other's company. So with communication, that's what that's about. And if you disagree with this person, you also want to find your disagreements in the courtship. Where are they a little bit different, you know, on certain scales? And we're going to talk about a little bit of that in a moment. So you know how they act when there's a disagreement. Yes. Even with friends. Think about it. I bet most of the people that's watching this, your best friends are the ones you had some of the worst arguments with. Because that's when you found out who they were. That's when you found out you saw some of their ugliest parts, you know, and y'all made it back from that. And that's why y'all so tight. And that's why y'all probably killed somebody about each other or over each other, because y'all done been through that. So you want to find out. You know, I'm not saying make up no disagreements. Don't go looking for disagreements. But you want to find out if there is something that y'all disagree on. If y'all 2 months into the courtship and everything, yeah, me too, yeah, me too, yeah, me too, me too, and somebody fronting, and it's probably both of y'all. But also, before we get into the next one, I'm gonna ask my wife. She has anything to say, because the next one is gonna be a heavy one that I pulled out of this compatibility factors that I know y'all probably waiting to talk about. But anything you wanna drop before we move on?
You kind of got on the disagreements, which was what I wanted to talk about. Conflict resolution. Mm-hmm. That's very, very, very important. Come on now. We know from marriages, from our own, we can look at our own parents, you know, like my husband said, we can look at our grandparents, just look at the relationships around you, that there's no marriage, no matter how long it has lasted, that's not going to come into some conflict. So you have to realistically see how this person handles conflict. You might have somebody who just runs away. You know, they completely just walk away. They don't even deal with it. You may have someone that needs to talk about it, communicate fully, get it all the way out. And if those two can't come to some type of compromise as to how they're going to handle a conflict so that both parties can feel as though there's proper resolution, then that's just not going to work. You know, that's not something that's going to be a lasting relationship, because you're going to, no matter how strong you may try to make your home and your household, there's going to be issues outside that are going to be unavoidable. And that's going to spill into the household. You're going to need to be able to resolve these conflicts between yourselves, between others, between you know, the world and your marriage, because that's going to always be pulling on your marriage, is the world. So it has to be some type of mutual understanding as to how we can both resolve conflicts that's going to be that's going to create a means of understanding and just a resolution for both parties, where both parties can walk away content, whether it's coming together, you know, a few days later. You can even write it out, text. If you can't talk and express your feelings at that time, you know, write in a letter. But that's something that's going to definitely have to be addressed, is conflict resolution. That is a big, big part of marriage.
Absolutely, absolutely. And like she said, it's not even always going to be conflict between you and your spouse. It might be conflict that your spouse has with a third party, you know, and you should be supportive of them, but what if they're wrong? You know, what if they're the ones that's wrong? What if they're the ones slack talking, backbiting, you know? So, you know, it's heavy like that. But we're going to jump on one particular part of those factors that we got to deal with. I had to take a red pen and go around that. Dominance versus submission. Dum dum dum. Dominance versus submission. Now I'm looking at social media, particularly with believers, and I see this coming up, and I see this issue being, constantly raised as an issue, because it's something. First of all, like I said, the science of mating, building a family, high civility type family, is just something that was taken from us, and a lot of us are trying to learn from scratch. So we hear certain words, and then we put this false idea of that word that was fed to us from the same man who called us a nigger, from the same man who enslaved us. He's telling us what dominance and submission is. Or we watching television, or we listening to our favorite rapper, or we watching our favorite reality show, and we getting the definitions of those words from that, and not from the man of God, and not from scripture, and not from common sense even. We just going off of the colloquial understanding of it. So let's deal with dominance and submission, what it is and what it's not. First of all, let me just say this. Dominance, brothers, without justice is tyranny. Freedom, justice, and equality, this ain't just stuff we say in the Nation of Islam. We supposed to mean it and constantly be striving toward it. Not saying we got to be perfect, but constantly be striving for it. So if you dominant, brother, oh man, I just like the way the things, okay, but is there justice? Is there a logical reason for you wanting it a certain way? Sometimes when you explain to someone why you want things to be a certain way, then, that'll clear it up for them. And then it becomes second nature for that person, because now they see the reason behind it. And one thing that we try to do, we don't always achieve it, but one agreement we made, me and my wife made in courtship, is there any difference of opinion or whatever that we might run into, or argument, if one of us brings up the teachings, scripture, something that's in our teachings from the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, Master Fard Muhammad, Message to the Black Man, Holy Quran, even Bible, if it's in our teachings, whoever the teachings leans toward, then that's the fact, and that's the judge, and that's one of the qualities of being equally yoked, is that means that y'all both have a standard to follow. If y'all got two different standards, it's gonna be a problem, because you're gonna go to your referee, she gonna go to hers, and y'all got two different referees and y'all playing two different sports, and now it's gonna be a problem. If she going to TD Jakes and you going to Minister Farrakhan, you going to Minister Farrakhan and she going to Too Short, and she going to Cardi B, you know what I mean? And you going to what Minister Abdul Malik said, or what's in the Quran, or what's in Message to the Black Man. So that's where that equally yoke comes from. So with dominance, dominance without justice is essentially tyranny. Now, what is tyranny? We gotta be clear on what tyranny means. Tyranny is cruel and oppressive rule. Cruel and oppressive rule. And again, turn the white girl off the TV. The one that's telling our sisters that, they need to join the Me Too movement. Turn her off. Make sure you have a real understanding of what cruel and oppressive, rule is. And keep something in mind. Tyranny is a word, a code word that America has been using for a long time as an excuse, right, and as propaganda to bring down entire nations. They tell you on television and in the news that Muammar Gaddafi is a tyrant, that Saddam Hussein is a tyrant, Adolf Hitler, Stalin, tyrant, Slobodan Milosevic, tyrant, Comandante Fidel Castro, tyrant. Now, a couple of them names were actually tyrants, but do your homework. you'll find out that most of these men, they just love their people. Ho Chi Minh, North Vietnam, who if you study him, he had a lot of good qualities, and he had a lot in common with the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad in the way they saw things. But in the times around Vietnam, they had all of America thinking Ho Chi Minh was a madman and was crazy and was evil. So don't bring that home. Don't bring the white man's trickery and technology home and try to make each other into tyrants, you know, as an excuse, you know, for you to be other than yourself or to bust up the marriage just because, you know, they didn't let you do something that you shouldn't have been doing anyway. You know, your wife asks you why you leaving at 11:30 at night and you ain't going to go make no money, you ain't going to do nothing righteous, you know, and you, oh man, my wife a tyrant. Stop that. Don't be misusing words. It's cruel and oppressive rule. That's what a tyrant is. Now, submission means accepting or yielding. Here come a key couple of words. Accepting or yielding to a superior force. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that God means what?
That God means
force and power. Force and power. I don't know where she was going, so I had to jump in there real quick. Force and power. It says to accept or yield to a superior force. Does this mean that every black man that's in a relationship is a superior force? No. The question is, does he have a connection to a superior force? Is he connected to, like your phone connected to a charger? Is he connected to a superior force? That's the superior force, which is Almighty God, Allah, who we believe came in the person of Master Farrakhan Muhammad. Is he connected to that? If he's connected to that, sister, you know, and it's proven, and it can be proven in no limit of time, then submission is good for you. It's good to submit to a God, man. I mean, that's really what the cry of the sisters is right now. I need me a good man. Where are the good men at? What you really saying is, where are all the gods? That's really what you're saying. That's a translation of what you're saying. Where the gods? Where the brothers? I ain't got to tell him to put the PlayStation controller down. I ain't got to tell him to turn the game off and go make some money. I got to tell him to go do this and then take care of his children and to be a man. I don't have to tell him that. Where are all the gods? That's what sisters are crying out for. But when you get it, you gotta know, you gotta be able to adjust. If you used to niggas, that's what you've been doing all your life, playing around with niggas, and you mess around and get a God. Not only does that brother need to recalibrate, you know, from being a nigga to a God, but then you gotta recalibrate, sisters, and be ready to handle a God. Because he gonna do some things a little different from Nuck, as Brother Minister Abdul Malik Saeed would say. He gonna do something a little different from what Junebug did. He gonna do some things different, and it's gonna be strange to you because you used to just coming home and there he is, you know, racking up points and playing 13-year-olds on Madden, you know, over the internet with a headset on and all that, cussing out some 12-year-old over a Madden play. See, if that's what you used to, and then you come home one day and he ain't even home, because he's still out there trying to build a nation for the family, and you're not used to that, you know, you might run into some problems. So that's, you know, the best I could do with clearing up dominance and submission, and I'm going to let my dear wife touch on that.
You know, we've been placed in a position in this world above our men, and that was done by the white man intentionally, and they did that in slavery.
Teach.
So us as sisters, we're used to being very dominant. You know, we're used to playing the dominant role because that's the hand that the white man dealt to us to bury the black man and lift us up so that they can stay in this world through our womb, and through the womb, not just the womb, our physical womb, but also the womb of our mind. Because whenever the white man has come and taken over a land or a people, he kills the man And he not only impregnates the woman physically, but he impregnates her mind so that his ideology and his thinking and his world can live and come forth. So us as women, we have been trained by this white man to have a dominant role, and they put our man underneath us. And plus, we have so little self-worth because of the world that this white man has created, and we don't have the self-worth that God has given us. We have the self-worth that this white man has given us, which is none. You know, he's taught us to show our whole body to the world. He's taught us to just be ignorant, loud, fighting, unruly savages. So we really have such little self-worth that when we do go, a lot of the times, I don't want to generalize, when we do get into these relationships, we have such low self-worth that we're not finding men who are worthy for us to submit to. You know, we're not fine. So we are actually submitting. We find ourselves submitting to men, like my husband likes to say. You know, the PlayStation players. You come home from work and they sitting in the couch playing PlayStation. You know, you may come home and cuss them out all day long and kick them out, let them back in 30 minutes later, give them open your legs up to them and give them your most precious private parts. But so you're submitting to them, even though you're displaying this false sense of dominance. So we have such low self-worth because we have just become a pawn to this white man in his world. Now what we have to do, I'm rambling on, but you know what we have to do as far as submission is we have to submit to not just a man who is worthy for us to submit. The submission first and foremost comes to God. We have to submit to the God who created us before we even think of submitting to a man, because that man did not create you. You submit to a man before you submit to the God. You're going down the wrong path. That's how you hear these stories. Oh, he made me go and steal this, that, and the other. He made me go and sell my body, because you submitted. You made this man a God beside God. You have to submit to the God first, because that man did not create you, and that man cannot sustain you. Only the God can. So when we think of submission, we have to think of first and foremost submitting to the God, the creator of the worlds, the heavens and the earth, because this is the man that has exhibited force and power over all things. And then when he relinquishes that power unto a man in physical form and brings that man into your life, then you will be able to properly submit to him, and you all will have a beautiful, loving marriage that the dominant role can be played by this man. We're taught in the Holy Quran that the man has 1 degree over the woman. We're sitting at 70 degrees right now in our home. If it went up 171 degree, you would not be able to tell the difference, because there would be freedom, justice, and equality. So just be careful with that submission.
That's heavy what she was saying. I was just laughing at our beloved Western Regional Student Minister asking, what brother raped my spouse? But we got a couple of questions I want to touch on before we get back to this submission and dominance. Brother Sherman asked a great question. He said, when is number 27 going to have a singles event? Not at the mosque, but where we can relax. However, the restrictive laws are in full effect. That's kind of a tightrope act, Brother Servant, where we can relax and stick to the restrictive law. Well, you know, that's a good question. We should have a singles event, you know, and we will. And also, Brother Minister Abdul Malik just mentioned, you know, a marriage retreat, and perhaps we could do something in conglomerate with that. For the singles. But let me say this. I think the best singles event is on Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sundays. Also Saturday mornings, when the sisters are in their class and the brothers are out there outside of the class securing them. Now, I know that ain't the answer that we want to hear in the Nation of Islam. But listen, man, the sisters want to see who's soldiering. And the brothers should want to see who's soldiering.
That's right.
You know, and you know, you want to see, you know, and we're not it ain't so stringent. I've heard. I don't have actual facts. I heard that prior to '75, you know, brothers didn't even say a mumbling word to the sisters unless they were, you know, physically related to them or married to them. But in the Nation of Islam, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he doesn't tell us to walk past each other without giving the greetings and all of that. You know, we should lower our gaze, no gazing into her eyes, brother, and vice versa, sister. But we can have, you know, I have 3 older sisters, so it was kind of easy for me to transition to treating MGT like my sisters, because I have a lot of practice with that. And for the sisters who have brothers, you can utilize that. Make sure, just ask yourself, are you about to say something, or have you said something to them that you wouldn't say to your biological brother or sister? If it's teetering on the line of that, then you crossing the line. You know, you wouldn't talk about sex with your biological brother or sister, you know, especially sex with them. You know, I don't even feel comfortable. You know, my 3 sisters are older than me, so you know, it's kind of like my aunties sometimes. I can't, you know, sit around talking about my business around them, especially that kind of business. So, you know, me and my wife have talked about doing some events. We actually did one. It was kind of unofficial. We just went out. Well, that was married. It was one courting couple, Brother Mike Shabazz and his courtmate, and then Brother Jabril and his lovely brand new wife, Sister Raisa. You know, we went out, but you know, we should just gravitate toward like-minded believers anyway. The messenger said, you know, 3 to 6 like-minded believers should start a business, but I think you can hold that same standard to starting a family. 3 to 6 like-minded believers should do something, but just make sure restrictive law is in full effect. Don't cut no corners. Don't play with it. You know, that's an easy way to get, you know, you're going to be real relaxed and kick it back, because you might mess around and get F-time. So don't play with it. You know, keep it in the strongest confines you can. That's why it's called courtship. You don't see no court trials out in the middle of the street. You know, you don't see, you know, a court proceeding, you know, in a restaurant somewhere. Court proceedings take place in a courthouse. You know, so you want to keep it in the strongest confines as possible. You know, not being, you know, so stringent to where it's uncomfortable, but just know that it's not dating. It's a totally different animal. But yeah, that's something that we should do and that we're gonna work on. But we still talking about dominance and submission. Dominance and submission. And I gotta make this point, beloved. Submission, believe it or not, and I like to say things that sound stupid when I first say it, but then I explain it and it sounds a little less stupid. Submission right now in 2019 is actually extremely popular amongst black people. I'm gonna say that again. Submission is extremely popular amongst black people and amongst black women. Submission is extreme. Let me give you an example of submission. Submission, especially even submission to a tyrannical man. Let's say a man mistreated, beated, disrespected a woman for many home every day, or he comes home every day, and she still waits on him hand and foot, does everything he tells her to do, but he treats her just doggishly, pops upside the head every other Wednesday. I mean, calls her everything but the name God gave her or that our parents gave her. You know, calls her everything but a woman. But she still services him, still works hard for him, still does everything she can to make him happy. Would you consider that dominance? Would you consider that tyranny? I know I would. But black people are guilty of that every day. Black women, guilty of that every day. Black men, guilty of that every day. We do it with the white man. We do it with the white man. He has been oppressing us and been cruel to us for 400 years, but we spend 98% of our money with him. Everything he does, we follow suit. If he tells us to go see this movie, we go see that movie. If he go tell us, to get a damn chicken sandwich that's filled with over 30 harmful chemicals, We will spend over 20 to 30 million dollars on that in less than 2 to 3 months. Even though this is the same man who has given us some of the most wicked and cruel punishment that the world has ever known. So to my sisters who flinch when y'all hear the word dominance and submission, I understand, because most of these Negroes ain't worth submitting to. I'm just gonna keep it real. There have been times in my life, and to this day, there are moments where I'm not worth submitting to. I get it. But just keep that same energy with your 400-year oppressor. Stay out of his stores, stay out of his restaurants, stop sending your children to his schools, stop trying to move next door to him, because he is the greatest tyrant and the greatest oppressor and the most cruel thing walking this earth. But for some reason, that does not stop us from wanting to get next to him. So let's not act brand new when it comes to submission, because we've been submitting for over 400 years and ain't nobody said a damn thing. Why is it that we twitch about submission only when it comes to submitting to a black man? And black women and black men are guilty of that. Now, I ain't talking about homosexual relationships. I'm talking about when a black man finds himself in a black operated construct like the Nation of Islam. He ain't never said nothing to his white boss. He ain't never said nothing to the police when they pull him over. But when he comes to the Nation of Islam and his lieutenant and his captain, his student minister gives him an instruction, now all of a sudden he want to drag his feet. Now he got an objection. So if we against submission, cool. I get it. I understand. I respect that. Just keep that same energy. All praises due to Allah. We're going to take a quick commercial break. Our producer just hit us with the... Now, if you're not aware, NationTownTV, we sedity now. We got commercials. You know what I mean? So we're going to take a quick commercial break. I forgot to remind you all that if you do have questions and comments, we were kind of slacking on that because these topics are so heavy. But if you have any questions and comments, go ahead and put those on there. She was supposed to be watching it, but she wasn't. I had to take her phone and look at them myself. But if you have any questions or comments, please keep it going. When we come back, we might spend another 15, 20 minutes. We're going to go over some of the questions, examples of the questions that you should probably be asking, or the types of questions you should be asking in a courtship. We'll be right. And just like that, we back. What's wrong with you? All praises due to Allah. And we back. And what we're going to touch on real quick, we got another 15 minutes or so before we shut this down. We appreciate everybody that's tuning in. Hit us up with any questions or comments that you see necessary. What we're going to deal with is a couple of the questions, the examples of the questions that we should ask in an actual courtship. And as you can see, I got them up there. Let me get that graphic out the way. Now, this is just some of the example questions. We're gonna deal with some other ones in future episodes. We might even do little skits, to kind of, show how these questions would go. But here's a few of them. I'm gonna go through them real quick. How long have you been registered in the Nation of Islam? How long have you been a believer? Now, for those of who are watching this now and may watch in the future that are not registered members of the Nation of Islam, again, if that is the case, I want to ask the question, what the hell wrong with you? But if you just happen to not be a registered member, then whatever, philosophy that you belong to, you can just replace that with that. How long have you been registered? How long have you been a believer? Can you explain Master Fard Muhammad to me? Can you explain the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and his mission to me? Do you regularly attend mosque? If so, why not? If not, why not? Have you ever broken a restrictive law? Ooh. Have you ever been married? If it ended in, I like this one, if it ended in divorce, and you can use this for all relationships, really, because a lot of us come from the so-called dating when we come into this high civility. If it ended in divorce or breakup, why? What was your role in it? Have you ever been in courtship? If so, how many? What was your last courtship? How long did it last? What was the main factors in your past courtships that caused you to decide not to marry? Are you still in contact with persons in your past relationship? What is your view of polygamy? Are you aware of study guide number 18? What is your view of the domestic life of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad? What is your relationship with your mama, your daddy, your siblings? When did you last talk with them? Ooh. What kind of childhood did you have? What are your personal goals? What is your occupation? What types of jobs have you held? What are your expectations of a husband and a wife? Now, as you can see, these ain't no Mickey Mouse questions. They not just, oh, what's your favorite color? Oh, what's your zodiac? We don't even do the zodiac sign. That's silly anyway, really. The month you happen to be, some of y'all were C-section babies anyways, so why are you leaning so heavy on the month you was born? The doctor is the reason you came. Now, let me stop. But, these are heavy questions. And there's a few that jumped out to me that I want to deal with. Starting at the top, how long have you been registered in the Nation of Islam? I think we have to be careful with that one. That's a question that should be asked, but be careful with that. Don't get so caught up if they throw a double-digit number at you. Don't think, oh yeah, she knows what she's talking about. Oh, she on it. Oh, I've been 20 years, really? I mean, the messenger said that the Nation of Islam was honeycomb. A lot of the, hypocrites usually grow into them shoes. You know what I mean? So, be careful with that. And at the same time, if the brother or the sister just walked into mosque, first of all, you don't want to be courting somebody who's still, wet up under the bow tie. Give them a moment. To really understand that this is for them and that they really believe. But if they've been 1 or 2 years, don't assume they don't know anything. You don't know what they were studying before they came into the ranks. It was probably, let me stop. But it's a lot of reasons why they probably just got registered, but they probably been studying for a long time. You never know. So that's one thing that jumped out at me. And also, as I heard our Supreme Captain, Mustafa Farrakhan, who was the son of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, said he was talking about a similar topic. He said it really doesn't matter so much if you're born in the nation. The question is, was the nation born in you? So the better question is not how long have you been registered in the Nation of Islam, how long has the Nation of Islam been in you? That's the heavy question. Is it in them? There's some people in the nation who it's the family business. It's just what they've always known. They don't know nothing else. Same thing with the church. Same thing, you got people who joined the military because their daddy was in the military, They didn't really want to go to college, didn't want to get a regular job, so they just joined the military. They already knew a lot about it. They traveled around and saw the ins and outs of it. It's just a family business. You know what I mean? And I ain't necessarily knocking that. If it's really in their heart, I ain't knocking. I don't care how you come to this life-giving teaching. If you really come into it. I don't care what route you took. But let's just not jump to conclusions on those things. Another heavy part is explain Master Fard Muhammad to me. Explain this brother to me and what he means to you. That's a heavy, that to me, these are, Now, most of these are just suggestions of what you should ask. I think that one is mandatory. Our beloved Western Regional Student Minister Abdul Malik Saeed Muhammad from the rostrum, he told us about, he didn't get no names, but he told us about an instance where he was counseling a couple that were really going through it. They was going through some problems, some heavy problems. And then he saw fit to ask them, wait a minute, do you even believe that Master Fard Muhammad was God the person? He felt the need to ask that question based on what they were saying. And neither one of them was sure. They were very honest. I give them credit, whoever they were, with being honest. And one of them, I think, if I remember correctly, the minister said that they just flat out said, I really don't. I mean, I want to, but I don't really know. And then the brother was kind of like, yeah, me too. I don't really know. And see, and that's important. That's extremely important. You got to get over that hurdle. Every believer got to get over that hurdle. Now, right now, I'm talking to the registered believers, or the soon-to-be, or the one, or those who intend to be registered believers, because there's some things about Master Fard Muhammad, if you think about, can get you through a marriage. First of all, he told us to work cheerfully and fear not. He told us, that we should work cheerfully and fear not. Now, marriage is work. So if he's talking about work cheerfully and we believe in Master Fard Muhammad and we're studying on him, then we'll remember that. We'll remember that when we're going through some type of issue. Another thing is that he took plenty. That's the thing I was trying to think of. He took plenty. He took plenty. So sometimes being married, you got to take plenty. She gonna have to take plenty with you, brother. You gonna have to take plenty with her. He went door to door.
Be long suffering.
He went door to door to raise the Nation of Islam. So that means he worked. He stepped out of his comfort zone. I'm sure that probably wasn't in his comfort zone. Ain't too many people love just knocking on everybody's door, but he did that. He did what was necessary. The first mosque, the first so-called temple or mosque meetings of the Nation of Islam took place in living rooms. It took place in living rooms. So that should tell us in our marriages that at the beginning of your marriage, you may not have all the material things that you want in the beginning. But whatever you have, what's going on in that? If it's a mansion, what's really going on in there? Are y'all fighting and throwing, $80 or $800 vases at each other? You know what I mean? What's going on in that mansion? What's going on in that shack, in that shotgun house that y'all in? But follow Master Fard Muhammad in the way he did it. And basically, there's a lot that we can learn about Master Fard Muhammad. His patience. I mean, he got stole on. Somebody took off on him. Somebody busted him in his mouth. And the FOI that were around him wanted to retaliate, and he held them back. Now, I'm not saying a sister or a brother should just get busted in their mouth and say, well, Master Fard Muhammad, so I'm going to let my husband bust me in the mouth. I'm not saying that, but there are things that bust us in the mouth figuratively, and we got to be able to deal with it and keep it moving. So it's so much that we can learn from Master Fard Muhammad. So if your belief in point number 12 is shaky, then that could cause really irreparable issues. Anything you want to touch on that?
That was just so beautiful, which the point that you made about Master Fard Muhammad, and I just wanted to say a little something in addition to that, just to camel back, like what my husband said. The first mosque meetings took place in humble homes, in living rooms, and when Master Fard Muhammad departed, he did not depart with the $80 million, what's the word I'm looking for, love? He didn't depart with the $80 million empire, thank you, beloved, that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad had when he departed, but he laid a foundation. In a marriage, you have to have a goal that's not going to end with you and your husband. You have to have a goal that you may not even see, but will be seen generations down the line, and you have to be willing to sacrifice to make sure that your children's 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 children are living better than you. So you have to be willing, like Master Fard Muhammad, to put forth the foundation and lay up the pillars that the rest of your family in the generations can build on. But that takes a lot of selflessness, you know. And the God was so selfless to come and give to us, come himself, for one, 9,000 miles with only his right hand to uphold him, and then to raise up from amongst us the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. So, you know, I just wanted to add to that point as well. There was something else I wanted to say. I lost it. It'll come back. I'll tell you later.
Due to Allah. And also another point,
yeah.
These are the list of questions that you see on the screen. Another one that I felt like was heavy was the question of mosque attendance. Now that could be a sore spot for believers, because, you know, first of all, by design, our open enemy makes life hard for us. I did the math. You know, if a believer in the Nation of Islam, and you could make this same formula with a church or any other organization that you belong to. In the Nation of Islam, if you just a super diehard, you know, believer, you the first one at the mosque, you the first one, you the last one to leave. You know, if you're a FOI, you push the final call damn near, you know, at least 3 or 4, you know, days a week, at least 4 or 5 hours. You know, if you add it up, it comes up to about to 20 hours a week. It's not a whole lot of time, you know, unless you got a very important position, you know, like a student minister, a secretary. Secretaries live at the mosque. First of all, they got a room somewhere. I mean, man, they live there, man, with everybody gone, with everybody in the hood is asleep. The secretary's still in there punching numbers. But, you know, or a student minister, before your typical labor, we only talking about 15 to 20, maybe on the high end, 30 hours a week. We ain't talking about a whole lot of time. But by design, our enemy has made the challenges outside of the mosque and outside of this work so hard that, man, we gotta work. We gotta get money. We gotta go to school. We gotta do this. We gotta take care of our children. We gotta deal with issues here and there. And that's by design, to keep us out of that. We talked about Master Fard Muhammad. One of the instructions that he gave us is that we should fall into the mosque every time the doors open. We should fall inside the mosque every time the doors open. But what I do find interesting is that we use a great deal of deceptive intelligence when it comes to explaining why we're not as active as we probably should be. I don't consider myself as active, and I'm talking about the whole work, not just coming to the mosque. I'm talking about the whole work.
That's the
You know, in the dangerous part about deceptive intelligence is not that it's deceptive. The worst part about deceptive intelligence is that it's intelligent. We all intelligent, especially when we come into this teaching, so we know how to work our way around things and say, well, I don't come to the mind because this, that, and that, and that, and that. Oh, okay, see, that's intelligent, but it's deceptive. And another thing, some of us, after a while, we grow this mentality, because the Nation of Islam, that first word, nation, we mean that. And that's what we're trying to build for our people, a nation. We're building a nation. It ain't an organization. It ain't a fraternity. It ain't a sorority. It ain't a gang. It ain't the hood. It ain't the set. It's none of those things. It ain't no secret society. It's none of them things. It ain't just a social club, you know. We're building a nation. But some of us get to the point where we feel like we've been there and done that. So when you're asking the question about how often do you come to the mosque, look for that in that brother or sister. Do they have a been there, done that mentality? Ah, man, I used to go to the mosque, you know, when I first got my ex, but you know, man, I'm doing this and doing that. I'm on bigger and better things. And here's why you should look at that as a red flag. I'm not saying that this makes them a bad person. But you have to ask yourself, sisters and brothers, if they can look at the instructions of Master Farrakhan Muhammad, when they can look at the mosque and say, I've been there and done that, what makes you think they're not going to start looking at you like that? What makes you think they're not going to start looking at you like, man, I've been her, I've been there, I did her. I've been there with him, I did him. I'm on to the next brother now. I'm on to the next sister now. You know, if they can get tired of supreme wisdom, they can get tired of you. I mean, you know, it's a lot of repetition in Islam. You know, the Holy Quran is repetitious. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, repetitious. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, repetition. Our supreme wisdom, repetition. Everything is repetition. So if they come with that, you know, a disposition that, oh, I've been there and done that. Listen, and don't assume, I gotta be fair, don't assume that if you ask that question how often they come to the mosque, they say, oh, I never miss a meeting. Don't assume you're dealing with a righteous Muslim. Do not assume that. Hypocrites, agents, provocateurs, they got this their job. Now, these days you got what I call pro bono agents and provocateurs who ain't necessarily sent by the devil, but they just trying to disrupt stuff just because they got a disease in their heart. But if that's what they are, that's their job. So they got to be the first one at the mosque, you know, because they want to catch that strong believer on their way in and on the way out. So don't assume things, but these are still good questions to ask, and you sometimes want to look for the answer behind the answer, because we not all as forthright as we need to be.
Yes. Two other questions I wanted to touch on, because I hear this a lot when people are unfamiliar with not just the Nation of Islam, but Islam in general. One of the questions my mommy asked me when I told her I was getting married is, where is it? It's the one about polygamy. Where'd it go, love? I lost it.
Yeah, it's on there.
Well,
what are your thoughts on polygamy?
What are your thoughts on polygamy? And also,
are you aware of study guide number 18?
Are you aware of study guide number 18? And also, because they tie into each other, where is it?
It's right above it.
I'm looking for the
right
second question. Can you not? No, I'm looking for the second one. There's two. It's the one about the minister, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad's
domestic life.
Domestic life. Where's that one, love? Show it to me.
What is your view of Honorable Elijah Muhammad's domestic life?
Yes. So, what is your view of the Most Honorable Elijah, the domestic life of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad? And I keep losing the polygamy one, but they're right above each other.
Right.
What is your view of polygamy? There's a reason why those two are right above each other. You know, I even saw something online today. A sister had a whole forum talking about how she so-called dated a brother in the Nation of Islam. Oh, no, ma'am. No, ma'am. I'm not even going to get started on that. And he was saying that you would have to be a part of my harem. For one, let's dead that. Let's dead that right here and right now. We, in the Nation of Islam, we do not believe in polygamy. We do not believe in polygamy. It is ordained in the Holy Quran as a correction for a flaw in society. But it is a sin, and it is a lesser sin than lesbianism, and what was the other flaw that it was creating? I'm not even going to go deep into that. But no, in the Nation of Islam, one is best for you if you but no. Okay.
That's what it said.
God said that in
you.
the Holy Quran. One is better for you if you but no. So no, ma'am, no, sir. Let's dead that. Then we only believe in one husband to one wife. Now, I loved how it asked right underneath that, what is your view on the domestic life of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad? And not to go too deep into that, because I know a lot of us have a lot of misconceptions from the Malcolm X movie, which is, I know, the only reason why my mommy even asked me about that. You know, look here. We have to understand, because we need to know who and what we're dealing with and the level of knowledge and maturity that we're dealing with in the Nation of Islam when it comes to those type of issues, because that's one of the issues that contributed to turmoil in the first fall, you know. And it's a lot of misinformation that has been swirled about in the Nation of Islam and outside of the Nation of Islam when it comes to the messenger's domestic life. I'm just going to keep it as simple as I possibly can. If the God tells you, which he told the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, to take wives, then you will follow the instruction of the God, because the God has done so for a particular reason. This, the minister says that in his beautiful lecture series, the How to Give Birth to a God, is that the God is he doesn't waste the leaf of a tree. So why would he waste the seed of a great man? You know, we're taught that in our lessons, the Master Fard Muhammad's uncle did not die at 45, but she was no longer able to give birth at 45. She was no longer able to reproduce, but the man's seed could go on. Absolutely. You know. So just to lightly touch on that, you know, on those two questions, we're just going to dead it with that. No, we do not believe in polygamy, but there was a reason for the messenger's domestic life.
Let me say this to my brothers real quick. My brothers that have that in their mind, whether you're in the nation or not, because there's a lot of Negroes playing around with polygamy in their mind, and some of them actually trying to act it out. Let me tell you something. I'm just 2 years in to this marriage thing. Marriage is one of the hardest, most beautiful, most demanding, and most important jobs a man will ever have. Now, most Negroes can't handle one job. So to have more than one job, more than one wife, is the equivalent on many levels of having more than one job. Some of y'all don't want one job. One job. But you say you want 2 or 3, because in the Holy Quran it says one is better for you, but it also says that if you have to have more than one, you have to treat them all equally. You have to give them an equal amount of money, equal amount of time, equal amount of justice, equal amount of freedom, equal amount of equality. You got to give them, it's got to be equal. And like I said, we can't hold a job. We can't hold a job. We get hired, next day we get fired. Bro, what happened? Man, the boss was tripping, man. He's hating on me, man. Yeah, stealing boxes on your day off and all of that. So if you can't hold on to a job, brother, don't even think about no other wife. You know, no matter what philosophy or organization or whatever you in, you know, polygamy, black folks, we are not ready for that. It takes divinity to fully understand and be able to execute polygamy. It takes divinity to execute polygamy. And ain't none of us on that level, so we can dead that whole thing. It's all through the Bible. It's all through the Quran. All your favorite prophets in the Bible. But these were divine men.
Yes.
And the sisters that they were married to were divine, were equally divine. Equally divine sisters. So, you know, this polygamy ain't nothing to play with raggedy Negroes and Negroettes. And we trying to climb out of that. That, you know, until we at least climb out of that, that ain't even worth talking about. But another thing that I wanted to touch on, another heavy question was, what was your role in your last divorce or breakup? I threw breakup in there because a lot of us may come into courtships and, you know, you may not have been married before, but you may have been in a relationship. You know, one thing me and my wife had in common, we were both engaged in the past, you know, so but still that was a breakup. You know, that was similar to a divorce in some ways. So, you know, asking them what was their role, that's the kind of trick question that I like in a courtship, because you kind of throwing something at them that they can't really run from. You know, and sisters and brothers, If you throw that question at them and they freeze and they can't even think of nothing they did wrong, think about that. They're basically telling you they so perfect that there's nothing they did wrong. Or if they give you one of them damn near I'm perfect type answers. Well, the only thing I did wrong is that I stayed around for too long. You know, that kind of, no. Get that out of them, because that reminds me of the course we go over on Friday nights. Self-improvement, is the basis of community development. So if they can't talk about self and where they went wrong, then that should be a big red flag. Also, another thing we used to do when we courted, any question one asked, the other one had to answer the same question. So don't ask no questions that you're not willing to answer yourself. And brothers or sisters, you run into that should be another red flag. They throwing all these hard-hitting questions at you, but then you come with one of your own, or the same question. Man, I ain't gonna get into all that. Okay, that's a problem there. Look for them twitches, man. Them twitches will tell you something about people, man. When you hit them with them hard questions. But in the topic she was talking about, not so much the domestic life of the messenger, but that's a two-part question. It says, what is your view of polygamy, and are you aware of study guide number 18? And that is rising above emotion into the thinking of God. And we're going to close on this. Sister, I want you to check and see if we have any questions before we close. My bad. But before we close, we're going to close on an excerpt from that beautiful study guide from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. This is early in that study guide, and I wanted to go over this real quick. This is the minister speaking in that study guide, Rising Above Emotion into the Thinking of God. He says, Allah, God, experiences emotion. According to the scripture, he loves, he hates, he grieves, he sorrows. He is referred to by some writers as a jealous God. However, he rises above all emotions in the decisions he makes. I got to say that again. However, he rises above all emotions in the decisions he makes. His decisions are based upon how the temporal affects generations, eons into the future. His decisions are based upon how the temporal affects generations. And the reason why I felt the need to double down on that is because I think sometimes oftentimes in our relationships, particularly the last 40 or 50 years since the black households start breaking up, is we don't realize how some of the decisions affect generations down the line. The children that y'all have, the families that y'all coming out of, and God always considers those things. We're talking the Nation of Islam, that the 24 scientists, 12 major, 12 minor, they write history 25,000 years in advance. And what they're doing is they're not only triggering a pattern of things, but they're studying the patterns of things that are going to affect the world 25,000 years in advance. So that's how we got to think with our courtships. That's how we got to think when rising above emotion. Sometimes we can do and say such ugly things and not give a damn who it affects. You might start out like my wife and me, it's just us two. But what happens when there's a child? And I bear witness, I know probably everybody watching this or that will watch this. I don't care if you grew up in the projects or in a mansion, those walls are thin. Those walls are thin. So if y'all arguing and mama's saying terrible things to daddy, daddy saying terrible things to mama, those children are listening. Don't think, even if you see them with their earbud nowadays, all the children got earbuds and they got 2 or 3 cell phones and they on YouTube, and you think, they not paying no attention. Trust me. They got them earbuds in because they tired of hearing you. They tired of hearing you saying daddy ain't shh. They tired of hearing daddy say mama ain't shh. But they know what you're saying and they know what you're going through. So rise above the emotion into the thinking of God. That's a hugely important thing when it comes to marriage. And that's one of the study guides that you should study. You should study with your courtmate. Why not? Why not study with your courtmate? You know, this ain't dating. This ain't sitting gazing at each other in each other's eyes, holding hands, watching the sunrise and all that kind. You should be out there late no damn way. Y'all should be studying, man. Y'all should be studying. But particularly number 18 is something that you're gonna have to dig into, because we so off kilter and we so other than ourselves as black people. When you in the dark, you operate on what you can feel. You go off of feelings. Our people are in darkness right now. So we go off of feelings. You know, when you're in the dark, you're feeling around. So we all in our feelings because we all in the darkness. So the first thing we jump to is emotions when we get upset, when we run into dissatisfaction. We jump to emotions before logic, even those of us in the Nation of Islam, when we not, you know, studied enough. You know, I've done it before. She did it before. We do it. So, you know, you in the dark, so come out your feelings and rise into the thinking of God. With that being said, dear sister, we got any more questions before we close out?
No, sir. No more questions.
All praise is due to Allah. I want to remind everybody that's watching, if you have not downloaded the free Mosque No. 27 app, something going on in your life, man. You need to check that, man. You 5150 or you slow or something going on with you, man. You better get this in your life. This is the best app in the world right now. And I stand by that. And my wife created it, so I know. So she forcing me to say, no, I'm just playing. That's the best app in the world. Make sure you check that out. As I mentioned before, make sure Mosque 27, 8701, South Vermont.
Right.
Come hear this brother teach, man. I'm telling you, right now, he teaching on the wheel. Oh, man. Yeah, man, listen. Listen. You can watch it on NationTown, but, man, it ain't nothing like seeing it live, man. Be our guest. Be NationTown guest and come and check that out. Like I said, 8701, South Vermont. Come hear the teachers of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. We got a free gift waiting on you when you show up. Also, go into that app and go to Yes Ma'am. Listen, you know, you got Uber for cars. You got Postmates for, you know, your Popeyes chicken sandwiches. And now we got an Uber and Postmates for charity, for doing something good for our people. You know, go on your Mosque 27 app, look up Yes Ma'am, and we'll take care of the charity for you. You don't have to do it if you're too busy or whatever. We'll knock it out for you. Definitely check that out. And last but not least, before we get out of here, I want to show you a picture that I forgot to show you. Now, it's going to be kind of funny when I first show it to you, but I can't get out of here without pointing this out. As you can see in the title, it's called Equally Yoked. A lot of people don't know what yoke means. First of all, it comes from the Bible. And I'm going to clear that graphic so you can see this. King James, this is 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 14. And in equally yoked, it means, it comes from the Bible where it says, be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. For what fellowship hath righteousness with unrighteousness? And what communion hath light with darkness? We just got through talking about darkness. So that's what it means, but let me tell you what it looks like. What a yoke actually is, Y-O-K-E. You see that contraption between an ass and a cow? See, that's an unequally yoked pair of animals. That's a real tool that's used on farms. It's a yoke. It puts two like-sized and like-species animals together. They do it for several reasons. If both animals are sick, or if they both healthy, or if they both ready to be slaughtered, they use them on farms to yoke two cows together, or if they plan on mating those two animals, they use that yoke. Now, that yoke, if they're unequally yoked, if one animal is bigger than the other, or if they're two different animals, they got two different temperaments. An ass is a wild, animal that'll kick and act a damn fool, and then a cow is a chill kind of animal, then one might kill the other. One might break the other's neck. You see how it's wrapped around their neck. So that's where yoke comes from. These are things that keep two animals together. to keep them together. So if there's an imbalance in that yoke, it can be harmful to both people involved. So I just wanted to show you what that actually looks like, and why we say equally yoked is something that's very important when it comes to agriculture and raising animals on a farm. And that's why you always see things about agriculture in the scripture, both Bible and Quran. So I wanted to go over that. But with that said, dear family, I want to thank you all for giving us your time. Time is the most valuable thing you can give to someone, because once you give your time, there are no refunds. You can't get it back. I want to thank all of our viewers who are watching it live and that will watch it after the fact. Thank you for tuning in. We're going to try to be more consistent with revolutionary relationships. I put her in charge of it, so if we're not consistent, it's her fault. Don't say nothing to me.
We be doing the work, yo. You gotta be a little bit lenient if you live in a mosque.
But with that said, I leave you as I greeted you in the words of peace, and I let my wife give her greetings.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, family. Thank you so much for tuning in.
I was told to deliver this message. I was told to deliver this message.